Welcome back to the deep dive. If you've spent any time near a bestseller list or maybe scrolling book talk lately, you definitely know today's focus.
Mm-hmm.
It's the powerhouse, Colleen Hoover, and specifically, we're looking at her 2014 new adult novel, Ugly Love.
Yeah, and we've really gathered a lot here. We're looking at everything from, well, her pretty surprising start in publishing
Totally surprising.
to how she built the book, the structure, and maybe most importantly, the really intense debate this book still causes years later.
It's so polarized. So our mission today really is to give you the full picture of the whole Ugly Love situation.
Exactly. We're going to unpack, the author's own mindset, how she ignored publishing norms. We'll analyze that dual perspective thing she does.
The timelines, too.
Right, the timelines, and try to synthesize why this relationship, Tate and Miles, gets such fierce defense and also such strong criticism.
And it all boils down to those two rules, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You've got Tate, she's this focused nursing student, meets Miles, the pilot, who's super reserved, mysterious.
Classic co-host setup in some ways. Right, but the chemistry's undeniable. Problem is, Miles is completely walled off because of some past tragedy, and his rules are simple, brutal, really. Don't ask about my past, and never expect a future.
Yeah, it's like designed to avoid feelings.
Which, of course, means feelings are immediately going to cause chaos.
It's the engine of the story. But before we dive into how those feelings mess everything up, we really need to understand Hoover's own journey.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the way she became this huge literary name, it's not typical at all.
It really isn't. It's actually genuinely inspiring when you look at it. We see her now as this publishing giant, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she started incredibly small. Her first novel slammed back in 2012. She self-published it.
And the kicker.
She put it up for free on Amazon, just hoping maybe some friends would read it. No big plans. And then, bam! Like total lightning strike stuff.
Yeah.
Within months, slammed hits the New York Times bestseller list.
Wild.
It completely changed her life. She was working as a social worker, steady job. And suddenly she quits to write full time. And to really get how huge this was, you kind of need the backstory.
Yeah, exactly. Like she got married really young, at 20, had 3 kids while she was still in college. They were living in a single wide trailer.
Wow.
She was all about stability, survival. She wasn't even picking majors based on passion.
Mm-hmm.
She started in journalism,
Okay.
but switched to social work because, well, pragmatically, it was faster. A quicker way to get a degree, get a secure job, support the family. Writing wasn't even really on the radar as a career.
Yeah.
More like a stress reliever.
And the spark for Slammed, it came from something pretty simple, actually. In a Vet Brothers concert,
Yeah?
she heard that lyric, decide what to be and go be it, and basically thought, I like reading. Maybe I'll try writing something. Zero expectation of it paying bills.
And what's great, what the sources really show, is this, stubborn humility she still has. She insists writing isn't her career or job.
Still calls it a hobby.
Yeah, she's actually worried that if it feels like work, she'll stop loving it, maybe stop doing it.
That mindset really explains a lot. She wasn't trying to please a market. She was just writing for herself, which explains the very low-key reaction to hitting the bestseller list.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone asked how she celebrated this massive achievement, and she said she just finished her shift as a social worker.
Huh.
And maybe the fanciest thing she could remember doing around that time was going to Red Lobster, which she considered, peak fancy dining.
It just shows how disconnected she was from the whole publishing world machine.
Okay, so she takes this philosophy, write what you want, ignore the trends, and brings it straight into Ugly Love. Let's shift gears now and look at how that shaped the actual book, the structure. Because she was definitely going against the grain.
Absolutely. She's pointed out before that her earlier books had poetry, college-age characters.
Things agents supposedly hated.
Exactly. Things industry sites specifically said not to submit, but she did it anyway. And with Ugly Love, she took some big structural risks.
And the biggest one, the one that really shapes the whole emotional feel, was how she wrote the 2 main characters. You mentioned she actually likes writing from the male perspective more.
Yeah, she does. And she used that here. She wrote all of Miles Archer's chapters, his entire backstory, his trauma, his whole journey.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Finished it completely before she even started writing Tate Collins' perspective, the present-day stuff.
Wow. Okay, that's a bold move.
It is. And it's challenging because it means when we meet Tate, we're seeing her mostly through Miles's very damaged, very restricted emotional view. It explains why he seems so cold, so distant right from the get-go.
And that structure really supports the dual timeline too, right? We've got the present day with Tate and Miles,
Hmm.
but then these constant flashbacks to Miles before the tragedy and then Miles immediately after. Hoover said that was crucial to show like two different people almost. The trauma basically broke him.
Yeah, fractured him, as she put it. And speaking of structure, there are those little hidden gems, the Easter eggs. We know music inspires her.
Like with Slammed.
Right. Well, Ugly Love was heavily inspired by the band The Airborne Toxic Event, and this connection is literally baked into the character's name.
Get out how, well, Tate, the main female character, her name comes from the band's acronym, TATE. No way. That's brilliant.
And Miles' middle name, it's Mikkel, which is the first name of the band's singer.
That's so cool. It's like this little secret nod most people would totally miss. Shows how personal the inspiration was.
Totally. And then there's another structural surprise, Cap. You know, Miles' older co-pilot buddy. Yeah, the 80-year-old guy. Love him.
Well, apparently he almost didn't exist.
Ugh.
Hoover finished the entire first draft,
The whole book.
a whole book, and then realized, wait a minute, Tate doesn't really have anyone to talk to. She needs a best friend, a confidant.
So Cap was an afterthought. That's amazing.
Pretty much. She went back and wove him, this major supporting character, into the entire story just to give Tate that sounding board. That tells you something, though. Even after focusing so hard on Miles first, she knew Tate needed that balance, that support system.
Right. Okay, so let's zoom in on Miles and Tate themselves now. Because
Yeah.
Miles, he's not like her other male leads.
No, definitely not. You think of Will or Holder or Daniel, they're generally sweeter, more emotionally open from the start.
Mm.
Miles is difficult, on purpose.
Yeah, he's reserved, very guarded. She made him harder to like, harder to read. He's kind of the anti-hero for a big chunk of the book. You're constantly trying to figure him out, figure out what happened to make him so cold. The sources break them down pretty clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Tate Collins, 23, nursing student, driven, ambitious, strong-willed mostly. And Miles Archer, 28, pilot, complex, very emotionally blocked because of this huge trauma with Rachel, his ex. That past just dominates him.
And that trauma, the intensity of it. It even got to Hoover while writing. She said Ugly Love was the first book she'd ever written that actually made her cry.
Really?
While writing it.
Yeah. But what's interesting is when she cried, it wasn't during the big tragic event itself.
Well, at what part then? It was later. The scene at Rachel's house, when he's looking at Rachel's daughter, that quiet, lingering consequence of the tragedy, that's what hit her.
Wow. That says a lot about the kind of subtle, enduring pain she was trying to capture. Not just the big dramatic moment, but the aftermath.
Exactly. And apparently, to get to that level of emotion, she needs absolute focus. Like total silence, hours of uninterrupted time.
Yeah, I read that.
She said even something tiny, like her husband popping in to ask about dinner, can just completely throw her off for the whole day if she's deep in an emotional scene.
You can see why, I guess.
Yeah.
That level of immersion.
It takes commitment, and you feel that commitment, that depth in the reading experience. Which brings us, I think, to maybe the most important part of this deep dive.
The reception.
Yes. How readers actually reacted. Because Ugly Love is incredibly polarizing. People seem to either adore it fiercely or really, really dislike it.
It's true. There's not a lot of middle ground. You either connect deeply or you bounce off it hard.
So let's start with the love side. What do the fans latch on to?
Well, the prose often gets praised. It's fast-paced, easy to read. But mostly it's the raw emotion. That depiction of deep pain, the fear of loving again after being shattered. People really connect with that.
And they often point to the later part of the book, right? Like the last quarter or so.
Yeah, exactly. Once Miles starts to thaw, even a little bit, those small moments, him buying curtains is a big one people mention.
Right, the domestic stuff.
Yeah, signs he might be letting someone in. And then that huge, gut-wrenching scene, his second big emotional breakdown. That feels like the catharsis the whole book was building towards for those readers. They see it as this powerful story about love, healing deep trauma.
Okay. But then there's the other side.
Yeah.
The critiques. What some readers call the ugly part of Ugly Love. And the complaints mostly circle around the two main characters, Tate and Miles. Let's start with Tate. What's the issue there?
She gets called a doormat. A lot. Critics and even some readers who liked other parts felt she just didn't have enough agency, enough self-respect.
Because she keeps going back to Miles.
Yeah, despite him being, well, pretty awful to her a lot of the time, his jerkish behavior, as some reviews put it, it makes the relationship feel really unbalanced to them.
And that brings us to Miles. He seems to be the biggest lightning rod.
Definitely. You see reviews calling him a complete jerk and asshole 60% of the time. The main charge is that the book seems to romanticize his toxic behavior.
Meaning, his past trauma is used to excuse actions that are pretty bad.
Exactly. That his pain somehow makes it okay for him to treat Tate poorly. And that's where it gets really controversial.
Are there specific scenes people point to?
Oh, yeah. The kitchen table scene is a big one where he's just deliberately cruel. And maybe the most contentious moment is when he calls out Rachel's name, his ex, during sex with Kate. Critics argue that stuff is just way over the line. And the problem for them is that the book rewards this behavior. He gets his emotional breakthrough, he gets the girl, the happy ending.
But the defenders would say,
Defenders argue Tate's behavior is realistic. Sometimes desire makes you do things that aren't logical. And they'd say Miles' push and pull is an understandable, if painful, result of severe trauma.
it's complex.
It is. But the critics fire back that the whole dynamic is fundamentally toxic AF, built on insta-lust, not real connection, and that makes the eventual happy ending feel kind of unearned or even problematic.
And there was even criticism of the writing style itself, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Specifically Miles's chapters.
Yeah, that unique structure we talked about. Some readers found Miles' POV, those really short, choppy sentences, tons of periods, especially about the trauma. They found it irritating or felt it was maybe a bit repetitive from her earlier poetry-influenced books and didn't quite work here.
Okay, so stepping back from the fray, we've covered a lot. Her unexpected start, this social worker turned hobbyist writer.
Right. Then the deliberate structural choices, writing Miles first, the Tate acronym, adding Cap late.
And how all that intense emotion she poured in led to this book that people either passionately defend or strongly critique.
Yeah. And it comes back to Miles's trauma, really. It made him create those rules.
Yeah.
No past, no future. The story says love breaks those rules down, forces him to change. But that reader backlash, especially about Tate being a doormat and Miles being cruel, it makes you think, doesn't it, about accountability.
It really does.
So here's the final thought for you, the listener. The book gives us that guaranteed happy ending, which feels satisfying in the story. But does that resolution maybe give us a misleading picture of real life? What does it suggest about expecting someone who's acting like, well, an asshole 60% of the time to just magically grow and change because of love?
Is that fictional satisfaction helpful, or does it maybe set unrealistic expectations when dealing with real trauma, real relationships, and the actual hard work change takes?
Something to chew on. It's definitely why this book keeps people talking.
Absolutely. Thanks for diving deep with us in the complex world of ugly love.